Coming up, it took just 2 weeks, but the Falcons, they finally have their guy. We're breaking down everything you need to know about the Falcons' new head coach, Kevin Stefanski. Plus, we've got boots on the ground in Cleveland to tell you exactly what Falcons fans need to know about him.
He's a really good offensive coach. He's been able to manage a lot of chaos behind the scenes and on the field. So I'm curious to see what Kevin's going to be with some stability and maybe with a roster that's not in constant turnover. But I think it's a really good hire by the Falcons, and really this coaching cycle, probably the second best candidate you could have got.
Ooh, we'll see if our guests agree with that. Also, is baseball being ruined by one specific team out west? We're discussing everything from a salary cap to a potential lockout in baseball. The coaching carousel, it may have stopped here in Atlanta, thank goodness. But sports, it never stops. Sports Extra starts now. All right, here we go. The Falcons have their 20th head coach, so a new face in that role, but no new faces on the desk with me tonight. My friends are here. Gabe Burns from the AJC right next to me. How you feeling now that everything is finally settling down a little bit?
Yeah, it's settling down in the football world, and then we've got spring training in just a couple weeks, so it just picks right back up, right?
I feel like I jinxed it a little bit because something's going to happen here when I turn my head. Cody Chaffins from DawgNation. Great to see you as always.
Nice on a slow weekend. Nothing going on, right?
Nothing.
To be here on Sports
Absolutely nothing is happening. Nothing's happening for you, unfortunately, because the Dogs lost, but still, you got plenty to talk about.
Transfer portal, there's plenty going on in DawgNation right now. Still a lot of upset people everywhere, including with the Dogs. 365
days a year. That is the coaching cycle. It is the football cycle. We never stop here on Sports Extra, but what does stop is that coaching carousel. Kevin Stefanski is the Falcons' new head coach. Thoughts on the hire, Gabe?
Yeah, you know, when you look at who's available, when you look at this job, when you look at the circumstances, it's just extremely logical. I mean, this fit, it feels natural. I think you could debate, was he the best person available? A lot of people seem to think behind John Harbaugh he was. Ultimately, when you look at what this franchise needed, I think we all thought they were going to look for experience. I think we all thought they were going to look for an offensive mind. I think that you take a guy who, it's almost like drafting a quarterback who has a ton of upside. And you don't know how exactly it's going to go, but you kind of know here's what he's capable of. If we get him in our system here, there's a lot of upside. With two-time coach of the year, he's got we've been over it. He's got the Browns to the playoffs twice. 4 of those 6 years were failures, though. And so when you talk about some of the fans who are upset, some of the fans who are skeptical, I completely understand that. Like that makes a ton of sense. So in this instance, I think it's a fine hire. I think it makes a lot of sense, but I completely understand the people who are skeptical about it.
The situation in more ways than one in Cleveland has been dire for years, okay? So the whispers around the National Football League, Cody, were Kevin is a guy that if he gets out of Cleveland, he's going to explode somewhere with the right pieces in place. Well, the belief is there's some pretty good pieces here in Atlanta, albeit he's got to figure out the quarterback situation, but he has a lot to work with here in the A. What do you think about Kevin coming here?
Yeah, I'll tell you that my first reaction was one of those things you do, like driving around Buckhead on trash night. You're just looking for somebody else's garbage. That was the first reaction. And you look up and you're like, you found this piece and you're like, I think it'll work. And you're like, oh, it comes from that house, the Cleveland Browns. He's only won 8 games the last 2 years. So that's the first reaction, right? But then you go through and you're like, all right, so if this is Matt Ryan, president of football, this is the first hire he's going to make. He knows all of that too, right? And he's got to believe in him. I think the big criticism that a lot of folks in Cleveland had about Kevin Stefanski is they said he kept his play calling was for the offense he thinks he should have, not the offense he really has. Well, the thing is, he can have that offense he thinks he should have here in Atlanta because of the pieces like Bijan Robinson and Drake London, and some of those pieces that are in place already. So I do think, yeah, when you don't have 4 quarterbacks and no quarterbacks, which is what he had in Cleveland, you have a lot more chance of getting it right and looking much better than that 8-26, which looked on the surface like you're picking up garbage off the side of the road.
That was the most incredible analogy. Gabe and I can never
Sorry.
do any better than that.
It's something
great.
I've done, by the way. Stocked my college dorm.
I was going to say, were you telling on yourself a little bit?
Yes.
No, I think maybe we've all done that a time or two. But this was the first Falcons hire that Arthur Blank has made where there is previous coaching experience since Dan Reeves all the way back in 1997. Of course, you're looking at me and saying, hey, Raheem Morris, he coached the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but there was a decade removed between the last time he was a head coach. So Arthur Blank doesn't really stamp the approval of these hires. I'm going to say at that time because of Matt Ryan's role in this, right? It's typically the young and up-and-coming offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, what have you, Gabe. But the fact that he has experience, even though Cody just illustrated it very well, 8 wins in 2 seasons, that doesn't look good on paper for sure. But he has experience, 2-time coach of the year, as you mentioned. Why does that matter?
Well, especially when you have Matt Ryan stepping into this, and Matt Ryan is figuring out what his job even is.
That's true.
I mean, he's in the process of figuring that out. I'm going to guess this is going to be a first-time GM too, and so it does help to have someone who's been there. It helps to have a leader who's been to the playoffs. I mean, Raheem, with all due respect, that experience was a long time ago, and it was mostly a failure, right? And this is somebody who has taken the biggest losers in the sport to the playoffs twice, and some of you are probably tired of hearing that because that's all that anyone's pointing to, but there's a reason for that. It's a big deal. And to win 2 Coach of the Years, that's a big deal. So this is someone who has been there. The highs are really high.
Yeah.
The question is the consistency that eluded him in Cleveland going to be here with the more stable front office? It all comes down to the quarterback. You can ask Arthur Smith, you can ask Raheem, it's going to come down to the quarterback. But I will say the way that the league views Kevin Stefanski, they're going to think he's going to get the most out of whoever the quarterback is here. So I'm fascinated to see it. Again, I understand people's concerns.
Sure.
But given where this franchise is, this is not the Arizona Cardinals. This is not a full-on rebuild. This team believes that it can be in the playoffs next year, and it hired a coach who's been there.
Remember the league-wide conversation that Kevin Stefanski was one of the best offensive minds in the NFL, and then we never really saw that in his time at Cleveland. You guys have both illustrated so many reasons why that is possible for us to have seen it that way, especially here in Atlanta. I know Falcons fans are frustrated. You have every right to be frustrated, but if you really just take some time to understand what happened in Cleveland, you might change your mind just a little bit and say, okay, it might be a little bit worse over there. So why should Falcons fans be hopeful, Cody?
Yeah, I think a lot of the Falcons fans, the anger that you're seeing out there, they say it's not a culture fit for this city. They say, he disrespected one of the greatest Falcons of all time, Deion Sanders' son in Shador, and the way he treated the quarterbacks up there. Well, I can tell you one thing that will change all of that, and Matt Ryan learned it when he had to take over for Mike Vick. Just win. All you got to do is win. That takes care of all of that. All those people who were angry about it are angry right now. If you win, you're fine. If you don't win, you will be kicked out either way. So I think that's the one thing that Falcons fans, if he doesn't win, he will be gone in a couple years like we saw Raheem Morris be gone.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. All that matters in the NFL, which is ultimately why Raheem Morris does not have a job anymore, is winning football games. So Kevin Stefanski, if you're listening, welcome to Atlanta. He's not listening, by the way. But if he is, just win the football games. Really quickly, reports out there indicate that he's going to keep Jeff Ulbrich around here as his defensive coordinator. Gabe, a lot of people love this, and they think that this is an important piece to whoever he builds out with his staff. Do you like it? Do you not like it? And why?
I love it. And obviously, it's something that Arthur Blank preferred. And, depending on who you wind up hiring, if that individual wanted a different defensive coordinator, perhaps you go that way. But Jeff did a great job with this. This is the best this defense has looked in a very long time. You saw young players flying all over the place, making plays. That continuity is really important. It's not, when we talk about coaching continuity, we usually just focus on quarterbacks, right? It's always talking about a new OC and all. It's really important for these young players that they're going to have that continuity. The way that Jeff and Raheem kind of mixed their schemes, the way that they kind of evolved this defense, I'm really excited to see him come back and what he's able to do with this nucleus of young talent. Again, it feels like it's truly been forever since we've seen a nucleus of talent like this here.
And it's just getting started. He said young, and that is why keeping Jeff is so important, because you mentioned these guys that have been drafted last year. They're the future of the franchise on defense. Keeping Jeff is pivotal for that side of the ball. All right, coming up, we're going to head to the land to learn why Falcons fans should be excited about Kevin Stefanski from someone who covered him for years. That's next. Welcome back, everybody. What better way to continue our coverage of the Falcons hiring Kevin Stefanski as their 20th head coach than bringing in the people that covered him in his first head coaching stop with the Cleveland Browns. It's my friend Chris Rankel. Chris, it's so good to see you from our sister station, WKYC. He's a sports anchor over there, does a great job. Appreciate you taking a little bit of time to talk about Kevin.
Of course. I'm envious that your guys' coaching search is over. Ours has no end in sight currently.
You'll get there eventually. And it is a good feeling that the Falcons wrap this up, but with a guy that you are very familiar with, obviously. What are the Falcons actually getting with Kevin Stefanski as the head coach?
I think it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of coach Kevin is now that he's out of the Browns. He had success here. There was obviously some lows the last 2 years, just 8 wins. I don't know that that was all on Kevin. The roster was in a bit of a turnover. And when things were good, things were really good. I mean, you talk about a guy who I don't know if there's a head coach in NFL history that's had to deal with as much turnover at the quarterback position as Kevin Stefanski has had. Yeah. They went to the playoffs when they started 5 different quarterbacks in a season and got Joe Flacco off the couch and somehow made it with 10-plus wins. So he's a really good offensive coach. He's been able to manage a lot of chaos behind the scenes and on the field. So I'm curious to see what Kevin's going to be with some stability and maybe with a roster that's not in constant turnover. But I think it's a really good hire by the Falcons, and really this coaching cycle, probably the second best candidate you could have got.
I love hearing that from somebody that's been in the midst of what's happening within the Browns organization. Well documented that there's been a lot of change and turmoil there for quite some years in Cleveland. But there's a lot of Falcons fans that are actually genuinely worried, Chris, because of what you're mentioning, those 8 wins the last couple of years there in Cleveland. Why should that not bear any weight on his next chapter in Atlanta?
I think if you look at the quarterback play, and it's always going to come back to quarterback play, Deshaun Watson has not been Deshaun Watson. That's well documented over the last few years since he got traded to the Browns. And then look at the quarterbacks this year. Joe Flacco wasn't really that good at the start of the year. They go to Dylan Gabriel, a rookie they picked in the 3rd round. Dylan had some growing pains. He wasn't really able to get anything done. Then they finally turned it over to Shedeur Sanders, and you find a little bit of success, but really this team wasn't set up to win in the last 2 years. Their offense was historically bad. They couldn't score over double digits very consistently. It's one of those situations where you can look at Kevin and go, all right, 8 wins in 2 years, why? And it's pretty clear why right off the top.
Seems like there's a lot of things that were disjointed on the offensive side of the ball, but that's not to say it can't work here. Let's stick offensively. Stefanski seems to be actually pretty aligned with the new president of football here in Atlanta, Matt Ryan, who knows a thing or two about playing quarterback. His line of thinking offensively, it's wide zone, it's play action oriented. We haven't seen a lot of that in Atlanta here in the last couple of years, of course. How do you think that that mindset can actually help, especially, we've talked about it, there's some pieces here in Atlanta where it could actually work?
Well, first of all, you look at Kirk Cousins. When Kirk Cousins had a really good year in Minnesota, his offensive coordinator was Kevin Stefanski. That's the perfect kind of quarterback to run his offense. And when you look at when the Browns had success on offense, when they went to the playoffs, they had Nick Chubb at running back and they had Baker Mayfield. Now, Baker, you could argue maybe he didn't fit the scheme in the long run, but what they like to do with the play action, with the tight ends, I think it's tailor-made for the Falcons offense, just looking at it on paper. And I would say if you're looking for fantasy football next year, Bijan looks like he's going to get a lot of touches if I know anything about Kevin.
Bijan's always going to get touches, but you're right. I think a lot of people were saying Bijan Robinson is going to have just a next level of success with Kevin Stefanski at the helm when it comes to offense. Falcons fans should be hopeful. A new coach is here, the 20th in the franchise's history. He's been through some adversity, and a fresh start is always a good thing for everybody. Chris, thank you. You know, let's not forget, too, Michael Penix Jr. still in the mix, okay? He's coming back in the fall, and who knows what he's going to look like when he gets back. So he does have to figure out the quarterback piece, but the point of that is he's done that before. Right. He's had his fair share of quarterbacks to work through, and Chris done such a good job of illustrating just how tumultuous everything was in Cleveland. Cody, we've watched that from a distance. How much do you believe that a change of scenery could actually help Kevin in this case?
Leaving Cleveland can be a good thing. Ask the Baltimore Ravens. They left Cleveland as the Browns and then went on to have success. Ask Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. Losing record in Cleveland. Left Cleveland, went on to have success. Even LeBron's been able to leave the land and go have success. So a change of scenery, especially from that city, seems to be a good thing. And I think that definitely can be the case. Again, we trust Matt Ryan to make the hire. All the reasons you're happy. He's been around the league over the last 2 years, getting to know everybody. He knows everything about what's going around the league. He also knows knows what it's like to be in a huddle and call a play. So if you were so happy we hired him as the president of operations, Gene, you got to trust him.
Got to trust him. It's hard to have blind trust. I understand everyone feels that way with football, but there's a lot of love for Matt Ryan, and you have to understand that he's been around this game for a very long time. I think he knows what he's doing. I say I think because it's not proven yet, but that's what we're going to believe, at least right now. Let's go to kind of what Matt Ryan is thinking. He and the front office have very big decisions to make when it comes to free agents that are potentially going to walk out of that building, Gabe. Who's someone that they can't let leave?
You need to keep Caden Ellis. And you talk about the breakout that he's had here. You talk about how important he's become. We were just discussing defensive continuity.
Yeah.
That's not a guy that you want to lose. And when you talk about building a culture, which this team, I do think they made strides, big strides in that area this past year, despite the final result, and especially defensively, your defensive culture. He's a guy, he's going to hold people accountable. He's going to stand there and speak. He's kind of a go-to guy, and I think that, again, he's age 30. Get it done. Get a multi-year deal done and keep him here.
Let me tell you something. When the Falcons start becoming a consistent playoff contender again, Caden will be talked about nationwide like he deserves. He wears so many hats on that defense. He is too valuable. You cannot let him walk out. It was Cody's answer, too, so I'm going to ask you a different question. What happens to Kyle Pitts?
Kyle Pitts, I would be one of those people. He's going to ask a lot of money. I want to give this new GM some money to work with, so I'm saying, Kyle, we appreciate what you've done here, and good luck to you. I think moving on from him would be fine. I look at last year, Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns brought in a rookie tight end in the 3rd round, and the dude led their team in receiving. He was top 10 in the league in receiving, plus David Njoku, who's been on that team the last couple of years. Stefanski can learn how to use a tight end, even if it's a young guy. So thank you very much, Kyle Pitts, and best of luck.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Kyle is probably not going to be in Atlanta much longer, but had an amazing end to the year. We'll see what happens with KP for sure. Coming up, a lot of money was dished out over the weekend to free agents in baseball. But what exactly does it mean for the future of this sport? Woo, we got a lot to talk about. It's next. Someone please explain to me who put a hex on this baseball team. What is wrong with the Braves and injuries? We haven't even started baseball. And Ha-Seong Kim, he signs that 1-year, $20 million contract, and now he's going to have surgery, Gabe. He's out for 4 to 5 months. What does this mean for this roster as it is?
I mean, it's unfortunate, and if you're a Braves fan, you're going, really? Again, we had that. I mean, they're like 3 weeks from reporting to Florida, and they've already lost their starting shortstop for most of the first half. I mean, it's really it's unfortunate for myriad reasons, but one is he signed a 1-year deal because he had an injury-ridden, 2025.
Yep.
This was supposed to be his chance to reestablish his value. Now he's second straight year, he's going to start his season late. It's unfortunate for the Braves because they got nothing from shortstop. They clearly really liked Kim. They went out and got him before the season ended. They re-signed him. They really believed in him, and now they're not going to have him probably until sometime in June. It's just really unfortunate for everyone involved, and it's just a shame. I don't know what's up with this team. It's always something.
Remember when Alex Anthopoulos said, as long as he stays healthy? I said, oh, can we just rewind that and just not say that again? Because this is now what happens ultimately. And also something that I know a lot of Braves fans never want to talk about again is the Dodgers. But unfortunately, they have made so much noise because of Kyle Tucker's deal. What in the world? 4 years, $240 million. That's $60 million a year. Cody, what does this mean for baseball?
I think it's one of those things where so many teams, you talk about the optimism of the Falcons and, it could be our year next year. When you move into baseball, that used to be the name of the game. Like, this is going to be our year. Every team felt that way. There's so many teams that just can't, you're not going to compete with the Dodgers, right? You can almost pencil them in the NLCS at this point. Now, here's the thing about the Dodgers. You do have to understand, give them some credit, because just spending a ton of money doesn't put you where you need to be. You can ask the New York Mets about spending a ton of money and not getting anything out of it. So credit to the Dodgers. They tend to do it, be successful by spending all the money.
Yeah.
But boy, it's just kind of a gut punch to everybody when you're like, ugh. So now, all right, they're in. So, it's kind of a gut punch as you get ready, and you want to be optimistic about your team being able to have a chance.
You've got teams towards the bottom of baseball where $60 million is all they'll spend on their entire roster, and that's what he's making in a year. Not hating Kyle for the money, because it is what it is, but when there's no salary cap in place, it's the only one of the major sports leagues that doesn't have one. It's going to be a free-for-all, and it's going to continue until someone says something, and that's where we come to the current labor agreement for Major League Baseball. It expires at 11:59 on December 1st of this year. Many believe that a lockout is coming. That would mean no deal would be in place and no baseball would be played. Gabe, what would happen if this does actually happen in December, and do you think a lockout is coming?
It's coming, and it's going to be ugly, and some people who I really feel that the 2027 season is at risk. And I think that it's crazy to think about that because there's just so much money involved for everyone. It's kind of crazy to think there couldn't be a season, but it's going to get that ugly. And I think that everyone involved needs to look at this. The fans, the consumer, they do not like the state of the game. They don't feel this is fair. And this is so nuanced. We could talk about this until Indiana and Miami kick off, right? But there's a lot to it. Certainly the Miamis, the Colorados, these teams, they have to spend more money. This is ridiculous that there's no floor that forces them. At the same time, the Dodgers just having this ability and making the money they do, it's just not a fair landscape. And for a while when the Dodgers weren't winning World Series, people were like, well, it's not translating. Now that it is, it's the deferrals, the Ohtani deal, all of it. I mean, it's a problem, and we're looking at this too from a Braves angle, and they're one of the top 10 payrolls, and they're nowhere close, right? I mean, and so again, there's a lot to it. The lockout is inevitable. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take them to find a solution.
I'm hoping they can find a solution sooner rather than later, because no baseball is sad for everyone. We'll be right back. The national championship, it's here. Monday night in Miami Gardens, we've got Indiana and Miami. Hard to believe that is the case. Cody, who's winning this one?
Indiana's going to win. They don't make mistakes. They don't beat themselves. And as somebody who covers the Georgia Bulldogs, I've seen the quarterback on the other side beat himself or make those big mistakes on big stages before. I think it might happen. He's gotten away with it through the playoffs so far, but Indiana.
Gabe?
Indiana, maybe 30-20. I just, look, I saw the Oregon game up close. I just credit to Miami. It's been an awesome run, awesome defense, but it feels like it's Indiana's year.
I also just don't think that Georgia fans would be okay if Carson Beck wins.
No.
It just can't happen, right? It can't.
No.
Fernando Mendoza, going back to Miami, wants to win in his hometown. Miami, a school that never recruited him. The story feels like Indiana's to win. All right, guys, thanks for watching each and every Sunday right here on 11 Alive. Remember, the Falcons still looking for their general manager. We'll figure that out next.